Yo everybody, what is up and welcome back to another video on the channel. And today I'm going to be showing you guys an in-depth tutorial on how to place in Fortnite Cash Cups or just tournaments in general this season, like Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 1. No, lots of you maybe sat there thinking, well Hazard, you haven't placed in Cash Cups, you haven't got any earnings. These tips are all coming from pros and people that have all made money in Fortnite, so they're all reliable tips, and obviously some tips from me in there. So these tips can also be used in Arena, gaining Arena points and stuff like that. Not just Cash Cups, but most of these tips will be based on Cash Cups and tournaments for Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 1. Guys, trust me, you are not going to want to miss any of these tips. They are all really useful for our placing, so make sure you do pay attention and make sure to like and subscribe. Okay, I'm not going to waste your guys' time. We're going to move straight into tip 1 of how to place in Cash Cups. So the first tip, how to place in Cash Cups, is don't take mid-game fights or just stupid fights in general, because this is literally going to lead to all your point loss and all deaths in every game. Taking mid-game fights or early game, or not early game, just like stupid fights that you're really not going to get any benefit out apart from 1 point, honestly, it's not worth it. The point may look good when it's kind of stacked up in your total points, but it's not going to be worth it in the long run. 1 point and dying is literally the worst thing you can do. Dying and getting 1 point. Trust me. What I would suggest to avoid taking these mid-game fights and just these stupid fights is trying to find a drop spot that's not too contested. Maybe I'd say if your drop spot is contested by 2 or 3 people every game, that's a really solid drop spot. You're going to get those starting kills to start off your game, and you'll have enough mats to fight if you do need to fight early game or mid-game. So find somewhere where it's not too busy. Don't drop big POIs unless they're like definitely uncontested or you're in a set lobby. That's my first tip. So take that into take that into mind and don't just W key stupid fights. Okay, jumping in straight into the second tip here is rotate dead side. If you're a good player, I really not advise you to rotate middle or like center zone, because that's literally, you're going to die just from rotating middle or centre zone, because there's so many people there because I think they're good just rotating, or the brain dead kids that don't like actually properly rotate. So I'd really want you guys to start rotating dead side, because it's going to lead to you getting so many more points. All the pros do it if they're just trying to avoid fights, if they've got enough stuff to survive. So maybe just try and find a route where you can rotate dead side from your drop spot. That is the most optimal way to get to zone. That's going to be tip number 2. I know that was quite short, but take it into mind, because rotating dead side is going to get you a lot more points and just make your game feel fresher in general. Okay, so that was tip number 2, and tip number 3 that I have for you here is always carry some sort of rotation. I know that in Chapter 3 it may be hard if the Spider-Man mythics do get deactivated or just removed from the game for whatever reason, but always do carry the Spider-Man mythic if they are still in the game at the point. And you are seeing this because I know this will probably end up getting views after the mythics are removed. It's completely up to you what rotation you carry. Obviously there was only launch pads and kind of the Spider-Man mythics, but right now the Colombo monsters, they've been added to competitive playlists, so you can use those to rotate. So maybe basically drop spot around one of those, get yourself to zone. But Spider-Man mythics, if you can find a Spider-Man mythic spot guaranteed, you can also basically drop spot on that. It's completely up to you, but Spider-Man mythics right now are obviously the best thing you can get. They would have had 80 uses without the recent nerf to them, because now they can only have 20 shots in competitive playlists, but they also do act as a harpoon, which is really good for kind of end game, as in if you are just sat in kind of your end game and you were sat in your own builds and you need to fish loot, you can just shoot the Spider-Man mythic and it'd be really easy just to get loads of loot. So I would suggest carrying one source of rotation at minimum. Obviously you can't find launch pads just whenever you want to, it's not as easy as that, but Spider-Man mythics are easy enough to find if they are still in the game by the time you're seeing this. So yeah, your first game of a Cash Cup, you are going to want to go somewhere that you are more comfortable at. This doesn't have to be your drop spot. This can be a POI where you've landed before, or maybe you land in trios there. If you don't play trios as much as you do, maybe you go to kind of more contested POI and somewhere where there's more people that land. Maybe you could go Daily Bugle in your first game, or you could go somewhere like Shifty Shafts. Places I wouldn't suggest going are like Tilted Towers, because you are just going to die straight off the rip. That's not what you want to do, because landing Tilted Towers is basically a death wish in itself. That landing Tilted Towers is one of the worst things you can do in any game mode, because it's just so heavily contested for pretty much no reason. It's just because it's been there for so long. But for your first game, you're going to want to go somewhere where you can take more fights. I won't say W key, but take more fights, because W keying, if you maybe you come across a team that's doing the same thing as you obviously might get beaten. There's a chance you could win the fight, but I wouldn't take it myself because it's just such a sketchy thing to do. And taking mid-game fights, like I said, mid-game fights are not the best thing to do. Because you're just going to lose out loads of mats and ammo and everything you need for the end game. So try and find a spot that you're more comfortable in for your first game. You could use this game if you are actually going to not be able to play it. You could use this drop spot if you are not even going to be able to finish the tournament. Like say you're on 7 games and you can't finish it, you can't get to 10. You could do 2 W key games and then try and get in the last one. But yeah, try and find a drop spot where it's more heavily contested, but obviously not just full and chocked of people, because that's not fun. Okay guys, moving on to tip number 5. You're going to want to abuse the meta. Right now the meta is actually spray weapons. Obviously the spray weapons have been getting quite significant nerfs recently, like the SMG damage ranges and the SMG damage in general. The Mark 7 has more recoil and less damage to builds, but the meta is still at full swing. SMGs are still as overpowered as they ever have been. Changing the damage for me isn't the best decision they could make to actually go ahead and nerf them. Is that if the Epic was trying to actually go ahead and nerf them, changing the damage wouldn't have been the best thing it can do, because obviously just changing the damage isn't going to do much for a weapon that fires like 7 times a second. But anyway, try and carry at least 1 SMG and at least 1 Mark 7. You can chuck a shotgun in there and then maybe 2 heals or 1 Spider-Man Mythic or 1 heal. It's completely up to you what you want to run. If you don't want to carry a rotation item like the Spider-Man Mythic because you think it takes up too many slots for you and you need more stuff like heals, then that's completely fine, but carry an SMG and a Mark 7 if you can find one. They are literally your lifeline for the tournaments, and they will get you so many more points because you can just jump in someone's box, get a fresh rotate and fresh SMGs and everything like that. So tip number 6, carry SMG or Mark 7. You don't have to carry both, but I would suggest carrying the SMG over the Mark 7 as it's just more buffed and just better. Okay, moving on to tip 6. This is actually the final tip of the video, so thank you for getting here if you are here. Tip 6 is don't shoot people if you don't need to. Shooting people if you don't need to. It's pretty much common sense. If you see someone that pretty much like 100 meters away from you, don't shoot them because they're going to turn around absolutely lazy when you don't expect it. So trust me, don't team, but try and make friends, not enemies in endgame. That's the best thing you can do, because trust me, someone with 2 SMGs in your game and you get enemies with them, you don't want to be enemies with them. Trust me, SMGs in this meta are absolutely disgusting. You don't want to be enemies with someone with 2 SMGs and a Mark 7 assault rifle. Trust me, from experience, that's not what you want to do. Okay, so tip number 6, don't make friends, not enemies, especially in this meta. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. I hope you did go on to enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you did get to the end, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, like I said. Also comment a fish emoji if you did get to the end. I'm hoping to see a couple of those in the comments. So thank you for getting to the end, guys. Hope you did go on to enjoy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.